save up, sell your Pokemon card collection, and you can have a number one song.
The song's not good. The rest of the steps don't even matter.
There is a truthfulness the first time those words ever come out, especially when you're tired. And in the circumstances we were in, we were exhausted.
Broadcasting from Nashville, Tennessee, offering a glimpse inside the music industry, shedding light on things they don't want you to know, and exposing some of the industry's biggest secrets. You're listening to the Turned Up Podcast, presented by Real Sound Productions. Here are your hosts, Jake Jones.
Always make sure to wash your brain hole.
And Robert Venable.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Depending on what neighborhood you're in. Beautiful here.
What's that supposed to mean?
I don't know. Maybe there are people, and it's like tornadoes or 2 inches of snow coming per minute right now.
What about a snow-nado?
I think that's a new movie starring Frankie Muniz.
Ooh.
Frankie, if you're listening, text me.
Snow-nado.
I get royalties. Hey, no matter what you're doing right now, if you're commuting, if you're walking your dog, if you're sitting in the bathtub, if you're playing this from outside the shower, listening over the little curtain while
That's what I do.
I do it while I'm driving. I listen to podcasts while I'm driving. Whatever you're doing right now, thanks for listening. And what we're about to get into, I think will make the next 30 to 40 minutes of your life fly by, and you're going to want to listen to this again. So this episode, we are going to dive into what it takes to make a hit song, and not just any hit song, a song that actually hit number one on the Billboard charts. We're going to walk you through it from, the very initial concept we're talking about the shower a minute ago that actually plays a part in this songwriting process.
That really happened.
All the way from that concept that popped into Jake's brain hole all the way to the end, to how it got onto the radio and how it hit number one on the charts. And maybe offer some insight on how you can get your songs that way if you're doing songs, or how other songs got there in the first place.
Side note, always make sure to wash your brain hole.
You do need to clean that while you're in the shower.
Sitting across from me is the legendary Robert Venable, made even more legendary yesterday by his tweet about 21 Pilots. This guy, speaking of being legendary, is an incredible engineer, producer, singer, went to college for it, songwriter.
Oh, man.
He's the drummer for the band As We Ascend that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And also, one of his engineering credits is engineering for 21 Pilots, which is what he tweeted about. So go to his Twitter and check that out. The tweet is just blowing up right now.
It's weird. I posted a video from being in the studio with him about a year ago, and I'll pin it to the top of my account right now. Go check that out. I just posted a video of them in there, and apparently people took it and ran with it, and now iPhone won't shut up.
So Robert, a little known fact, back in his younger days, when he was in his 50s or 60s, had a very large real-life dinosaur collection.
I did. I kept them in the backyard, fenced in with these. I did boulders. I had a couple of my friends push over for me.
Which is interesting. They call it Stonehenge now.
But they do. It fell over. A lot of it's not even there anymore. You should have seen it in its heyday. It was beautiful.
Oh, I bet.
But I kept all my pet dinos there.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I miss Lewis. Lewis. It's probably powering some vehicle now. Sitting right in front of me, Jake Jones, one of my best friends and one of the most humble guys you're ever going to meet. This guy produces, engineers. I'm sitting in his recording studio right now looking at plaques on the wall of number one songs he has written and produced. And it's just cool to be amongst friends who kind of can do the same things that you do and you can talk about, but you don't have to talk about music when you're with them.
Who are almost as cool as you, but not quite as cool as you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on his own horn, that is Jake Jones. Tooting away. The guy plays guitar and sings in the band As We Ascend, which has a number one song, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, how we got there. But also used to play guitar in the band We As Human, and what he does for so producing and engineering is quote unquote his real job. But what brings in the most money for Jake Jones? He alphabetizes M&Ms. He used to work at the M&M factory and threw away all the W's. He got fired.
It's a tough job, but somebody has to do it. It really upsets me when I open a package of M&Ms and they're all W's. It makes me really mad.
He'll throw them all out, not even share them. I'll be like, I'll take okay, fine, throw them away.
They're not even worth eating. It's a crime.
What are we going to talk about today?
Stop that record. That song that was just playing.
Yeah.
You know that song, Robert?
I know that song, Jake, but do you know that song?
I do know that song. That song is the song we're actually talking about. That is a clip that we took off of the intro of our song, Tell Me, and used it for this podcast. That song spent 2 weeks at the very top of this Billboard chart and several weeks in the top 5 and top 10, and I believe it's even still there right now.
It sure is. It's number 7 right now on the top 10 charts for Billboard. One of those things that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to radio songs and songs charting on the Billboard is the process it takes to get there.
So wait, is this the process? You write a song, you record it on your computer device, and then it's done.
Yeah, with like 20 extra steps.
And if you're lucky,
you might get discovered in a bar.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happens in your dreams or in the movies. But actually, in real life, it's a more complicated process than that. And it does start with a whole concept or an idea or something that you're humming along. You're like, that'd be a cool song, or maybe not. But like with my case, I come up with these concepts and then I'm deciding against them, like that's stupid, and throw it away and never use it again. But sometimes those come up in your brain while you're singing in the shower or whatever, and you don't have a way to record them. Or do you? Let's start from the beginning on what it takes to make a #1 Billboard charting song.
What does it take? Well, first of all, it's no accident. There are sometimes some happy accidents that happen along the way, but the process as a whole, we came at it with intent. We knew what we wanted. We didn't know that this song was necessarily a single, but we definitely wanted to treat it as though it could be, and we did from the very beginning. So, back up. It's November 11th, 2016.
Let's hit the time machine.
Oh, hi. I'm Jake.
Too far. We got to come back up to 2016.
No, so it's November 11th, 2016. Justin Forshaw.
He's the third member of the band.
The third member of the band. He is also the other singer and amazing guitarist. This guy can play, to say he can play circles around me is just such a gross understatement. I feel goofy even saying it.
He teaches guitar lessons. You should look him up online. Just Google Justin Forshaw and like check out his Instagram videos and stuff like that. If you can go, he can play that on the guitar. It's crazy.
And I think it's called modern guitar.
And then he'll say that was a 6th minor diminished 8th and A flat arpeggioed chromatic, not Chinese third scaled something in B.
The guy is a musical genius. That's not an exaggeration. So Justin Forshaw, Robert Venable sitting across from me, of course, and myself, we had locked ourselves in the studio for the entire month of November, or pretty close to it. And
yeah, pretty much.
We were right in the middle of writing our record. We'd already recorded a few songs, the demos for them, as we were kind of going through and deciding, are we going to keep these or are we going to throw them out? And I was stinky. When I say we were locked in the studio, we were literally door locked, shut. The three of us.
It smelled like dudes.
In the control room, pile of snacks, just writing our butts off. And so I had taken a little bit of a break, cleaning my brain hole.
Refreshing. I mean, we were locked in the studio, and it's just, we saw the same like scenery every day. It was 4 walls, 2 speakers, some guitars, and a couch.
Yep.
And it was, oh man, long days.
Thinking, what is the next song going to be? What's it going to be? What's it going to be? And just trying to come up with an idea. And I was actually washing my hair, and this idea hits me. And I think, I don't want to forget that. That's going to be good. That's a good idea. That could turn into something. I don't even shut the water off. I don't even dry myself off. I open my shower curtain and reach for my phone and hit the record button on my voice memo.
And this is that memo.
Was it the late night headlights on the road? Was it the...
So if you listen, you can even hear the water running in the background of the phone.
I'm on to you. Was it worth it in the end?
And that was the birth of this #1 song. This is the very first downbeat, the very first concept or our idea of where we can take this song.
So tell me.
It was still a fetus.
It was still in its infancy, not even birthed yet.
Still had a tail.
Oh, so let's tell the tale of this song and how it grew up and matured into this beautiful, budding, blossoming, flower of a song.
So you make it sound so beautiful. Well, we had a lot of song ideas coming into the writing process.
We should hit a timeout right now. This is Zach Morris, Saved by the Bell throwback timeout.
Timeout.
The normal process for selecting songs for a record is not how we're talking about right now. We did this differently. We came into the studio with nothing except for these concept or voice memos or whatever that we've hummed into our cell phones over the past few months or whatever. But generally, in every other case, I would say, there's a library of songs that have already been demoed out and written by other songwriters who have gotten together in rooms. So a member from the band, probably the singer or the guitarist, will go together and meet with another producer in some other state or have Skype meetings or whatever, go from studio to studio and co-write with these other songwriters or group of songwriters and producers, and they demo out these songs. They sound pretty much done, but it's not the band playing it. It's just a random guy and a random producer, and they've produced it up to make it sound like songs. And then they choose from these 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 songs, the few that are going to be on the record. Say we went this one, we went this one, with this one, and then they go with the band's producer and they produce them out with the band playing, or session players or whatever it is, to put together this record. We didn't do that.
Right. Well, and the reason that the industry does that as a whole, and that is the most common practice, is, there's song farming. It's, at the end of the day, best song wins.
Right.
And so if you are signed to a major record label and they're like, the band, their songs are okay, but could they be better? They'll find songwriters that they know have already written hits and have written a lot of hits.
Yeah, they got a track record.
They'll bring them in with the band and they'll be like, okay, we'll have this guy write a couple songs with them. And then we'll have this guy write a couple songs with them, because all that, as a whole, all the industry cares about is good songs. They don't care if it's true to your band or true to your sound or true to your fans or whatever.
And if you don't have a story behind it, they'll manufacture a story behind it.
That's right. It's so true. And so all that being said, that's not a bad process. That is definitely a tried and true, proven way
it works.
Of getting really good songs that will be really successful. Because, at the end of the day, you make more money if your songs are successful. You sell more stuff, you go on bigger tour, whatever it is, you hit higher on the charts.
And that's what the end goal is for a lot of artists and management and labels. Time in, back to where you were. Getting out of the shower with that voice memo, and we took that and did what?
I sat on it for a couple of days is what I did. Again, we were coming up with fresh ideas every day. We had a list of ideas that we all had, maybe song starts where it was just a couple of words, which is all this was. And I was holding it for a day that I knew that we might not have an idea or might need one. And sure enough, the day came only a few days later. So we're in the studio and I pull out this idea on my phone. I'm like, guys, check this out. What do you think? And of course, nobody else can hear what's in my brain but me. So I jump on the computer really quick and I made a
simple little drum loop type thing that we just looped repeatedly to kind of write to.
Threw some quick little ditties on there, and I just kind of mumbled into my phone. It's called scatting, and it's whenever you're writing a song and you just want to kind of get the cadence, the idea, but you don't have words yet.
For instance, it'd be a lamb.
This is perfect, yeah,
like that.
Well, listen to this. So this is what I came up with, kind of after we made a little bit of a loop and trying to figure out what to do. Check this out.
Was this the bun? Was it the bun? 'Cause I'm on to you. I'm on to you. Was it worth it in the end? Risked it all to lose a friend. So tell me. So if
you're keeping track right now, there are 2 steps you need to know if you're trying to write a #1 hit Billboard song. The first one, don't throw away any of your ideas. Even if you're in the shower, jump out and record that stuff.
Right. When inspiration knocks, you open the freaking door.
And then #2, if you're making a list, and I'm not going to number all these because I'll forget, but #2, if you're making a list, then you want to get that idea somehow and start working upon it. Start even something simple, a Casio, and hitting the bossa nova button so you have a beat to write to. But start that process, which brings us to step #3.
All right. So this song in particular, we wrote with the lovely Josiah Prince from the band Disciple.
Here's one of their songs.
Our good friend and publisher, Chad Green.
Hi, Chad. I know you're listening.
Shout out to Chad. The guy is one of the hardest workers in the industry I've ever known. And our dear friend. But Chad set up this co-write with Josiah. Josiah is a phenomenal writer, and he thought, well, let's see just what happens. What happens if we bring someone else in to kind of write with these boys? Which,
by the way, is the only time during the whole writing process for this record that we co-wrote with another person.
That's right.
It's the only other person on the record.
And so what does that say about co-writes?
Well, obviously, if you look at the top 10 songs on the charts right now, I'd say 10 out of 10 of them have been written with other people.
That's right.
Co-writes work.
So we bring in Josiah, and as with any co-write, we're all going through ideas that we've got. We're like, I don't know, I have this idea. What do you think of this one? And you do that till everybody in the room is kind of like, oh.
And that's a very exposing moment, by the way.
It's very vulnerable. Lots of,
like, here's a voice memo. Please don't listen to it loudly. I'll sing it better.
a lot of, in the car with your mouth full of food, because those ideas hit you at always the most inopportune times.
You can hear turn signals in most of my voice memos.
So all of a sudden we get to this idea for Tell Me, and we start sharing just some life experiences, some stories, some different things, and it becomes really clear to everyone in the room, this is the song that we need to write. So everybody has ideas. We're all throwing in our input into the song, and then the song eventually reached a point where we said, okay, I think it's done. I think we have it. And so Josiah, having the most beautiful, angelic voice in the room, and also the one that happened to be holding the guitar in his hands. And this is what you do whenever you have it. If you're not going to fully demo out the song right then and there, then you'll create a work tape, which is just a very simple, usually some sort of instrument or your foot stomping or clapping, and you just sing the song.
Try to get through the format, basically.
Start to finish. Yep.
It's going to have a verse here, a chorus here, a verse, chorus, blah, blah, blah.
So here is that from the day, here's that voice memo from the day that we finally finished the lyrics, a rough idea of the melody and kind of the cadence of the song Tell Me.
The rush of the hush hush, keeping it low. Was it the games, the chase when you were out on your own? I'm on to you. I'm on to you. So was it worth it in the end? You risked it all to lose a friend. So tell me.
I don't know why Josiah is not our singer.
I'm sitting right here. I can hear you.
Well, you got me for the drum thing. I mean, Frankie Muniz is going to be playing drums now, so might as well get Josiah Prince.
It's not even going to be the same band anymore.
We're going to start a new band called Metallica. It's a British version.
Real original. Real original.
That name will never sell.
Exit Sandman, is that going to be your most popular song?
Enter Sandwoman, we are definitely PC around here.
Enter Sand androgynous human.
What was it that Guy Gilchrist said? Half paperclip, something?
half porpoise, half porcupine or something.
I don't remember.
Or pencil sharpener.
All of that. Enter that.
Enter that. So, song now is, for all intents and purposes, complete as a song. But you can't throw that voice memo up on the radio and expect it to do anything.
So, we took that voice memo and put it back in the computer and started playing upon it.
Pushed a bunch of buttons, beep, boop, 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 beep, beep, boop, 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 pulled a lever on the side.
Kind of like a slot machine, waiting for the wheels to turn.
Lightning, and our hair all stood up.
The hamster's on the wheel.
Yep, Robert made a big evil laugh.
The lights flickered, and then this happened.
And then the song came out.
Or there might be some other steps in there that we actually had to do some stuff. So we started laying down guitars. Drums.
That's right.
So we took the loop and the stuff and had it in the headphones and kind of just played the drum thing, put the drums down, recorded the drums how we thought, a rough idea of how it'd be. I didn't want to go back and re-record them, that's for sure, because miking up 16 drums is always fun. But once they were all edited and put in, let's play a clip of what the drums sounded like just by themselves. I mean, there's some processing on here and they've been edited, but here's a rough idea.
So that's the drums. When I'm putting a song together, that is the first thing I like to lay down.
Sure.
I also play drums a little bit, not nearly as good as Robert, but it is definitely the backbone for me of the song. It's the thing that I feel the most when I listen to a song. Bad drums ruin a song for me. Good drums make a song for me. So that's why I was like, no, Robert, you got to do drums on this first.
So when I did the drums, I wanted to make it, a familiar beat and simple, but something maybe a little backbeat on the hat or a little trill every now and then. I don't know, something stupid that's different from the normal, but they gave it a little personality.
Yeah, and you did a phenomenal job.
Thanks,
I love the drums on this song, which actually created a little bit of a challenge for me later when it came time to mix, but we'll get there.
Yeah, that's right. But to get there, we have to get some guitars on the track.
So, of course, Justin and I play guitars. My philosophy on guitars has always been less is more. And a lot of younger bands, especially when we're doing rock or metal, it's like, oh, we got to record the same part 15 times on each, 10 to the pan it left and pan it right.
A wall of guitars.
So that it just sounds massive. And sometimes that never works actually. But having big guitars, never a bad thing. But the trick to getting big guitars is not adding a lot of layers of guitars.
It actually make it sound smaller if you do that because it's taking up so much room. It's just, it's muddy. Nothing sounds, pronounced. Let's real quick play a chunk of the chorus guitars you guys did, and then we're going to pick it apart.
All right, so what you're hearing in that is 6 different guitar tracks playing at once.
3 different parts, each one doubled.
What we did was 3 completely different parts. So of course there's your good old American grade A, tried and true power chords that are just kind of chugging along, and here's those. And then we did something that is kind of a little producer trick where we took a guitar and just made it nasty.
The most disgusting sound you can ever think of, and then make it dirtier.
And then we just played 1 string at a time through the whole chorus, just play the same progression. And here's what that sounds like. It is gross.
So basically right there, you're playing the same part you played a minute ago, but just on 1 string.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Not like 1 string at a time, like I'm going to play just this string, another take, play this string. You know what I mean? So that's dirty and gross, but that fills in some frequency range there and grits it up. I like it. I do it when I produce tracks.
So now I like the guitar to have some 3-dimensional depth to it, some notes moving, some things changing, and it makes it more exciting. So we did a couple of, they're the same kind of parts, but a little bit different, and we pan those left and right. And here's what those sounded like. So you put those together, and that's the chorus on guitars of Tell Me.
The verses are a little more stripped down, more of a programmed synth stuff. We'll get to that in a minute.
First verse doesn't even have guitar.
We'll play the whole song in its entirety at the very end so you can see what we're talking about instead of all these little clips we're kind of throwing here for you.
Right. So now we've got drums, we've got guitar. Now it's time for bass.
Tell us exactly who played bass and what year of a bass guitar they played.
Well, on this particular track, and it's the only track we did this on, our good buddy MacBook Pro.
Oh yeah, MacBook Pro. We referenced him in one of the other episodes.
He played bass on this track. No, we did a synth bass, and it was definitely an intentional move. I wanted like kind of a poppier sound. With synth bass, you can hit lower notes a little more cleanly.
Right. It doesn't get so flabby as a regular electric guitar or like bass guitar would do.
And yeah, and it just has a different, it's not that it sounds better or worse. It just has a very different sound to it than an acoustic bass.
Well, here, listen.
All that is it's a very clean synth bass and then a very distorted synth bass that's turned way down, and they are just glued together
with super glue.
That's
you can
super
find
glue?
You can find it at Home Depot.
Every studio's best friend.
That and duct tape. So now we've got the low end stapled down with this synth bass that Jake programmed in the studio. We needed to kind of start adding some layers. We've got bass, guitars, and drums, but it's not quite where we want it. So we started putting some electronic elements into it. Before we got to the vocals.
That's right. And I have a couple of things I like to do that I will just, if you really want to know, you can hit us up in the DMs. But I can't share every secret. But there is some little parts that I think I may have even actually put those in before we ever even did the drums. Just some simple
There were some of them
stuff.
there, I remember, yeah.
Anything to make the song interesting, make you, the second you hear it, go, oh, what's this?
Right.
And I don't overthink that stuff. Sometimes I can hear it in my head ahead of time. Sometimes I have no idea and I go searching through sample libraries till I find something that I like. And
that can take hours sometimes.
Oh yeah. In this particular instance, I just said, here's something that I think I'll probably like. And I played the keyboard and just looped it through almost the entire song. So we had like a little bit of that already kind of as just a foundation for the song.
Can you pull up some of those and play them real quick?
Yeah, here, check this out.
Now, the thing with synth sounds like that, when you're producing a song or writing a song, the way I approach this, and Jake, I think you're the same way, we kind of try to just, if you come up with an idea, record it. And then once we get into the mix phase or the production phase, we'll start deleting some of that stuff out. And one of the hardest things to do when you're programming electronic sounds or even coming up with the guitar parts or vocals or anything is to turn it down. Because you just spent an hour searching for that synth sound or that tone or refining it or EQing or whatever. And it's like your creation. And now they're like, let's turn it way down. So it's more felt than heard.
Right. Well, yeah, sometimes you're like, oh, I just wrote the most beautiful string arrangement of my entire life.
Yeah, but it might not be the right part for that song, or maybe not for that part of the song. And so it's really hard to spend so much time programming and coming up with this thing, and then for that idea either to get shot down or to be brought down in the mix volume-wise to where it's more of an energy thing, less than not even a melody thing.
Right.
And I use the analogy sometimes. It's like you wouldn't wear 15 of your favorite sweaters in a room. I mean, they all look great. Every one of those sweaters is great and does the purpose, but it's just way too hot in the room to wear 15 sweaters. It doesn't make sense. So you got to pull some of those off.
Yep. I only wear like 12 sweaters.
That's how many I wear normally in the summer.
Winter time's totally different story.
So it's tough being creative and coming up with these parts. And sometimes you can't think of the parts. Like, I know it needs something. And you'll search through libraries of sounds and sound banks forever trying to find stuff. And you might need to sleep on it or have someone else do it. I get frustrated sometimes. I'm like, I know I want to hear this, and I'll beatbox it to somebody. I'm like, something that sounds like, find that sound. It's in my head. Fix it. And, you might do it and it might work and it might not. But
sure,
it's tough coming up with these parts and then having to figure out where they go in the mix, if at all.
And the rule of thumb with any of those parts is, are they making the song better? It is so easy to just throw a bunch of crap on a song that sounds cool. But again, you don't need 15 sweaters. Every one of those little loops and synths and ditties and bebops and whatevers might be amazing. But when you unmute all of them and play them at the same time, just sounds like The Color Brown.
A line I like to say a lot of times in the studio when a band asks me, what do you think about this? And they put it down, I'm like, well, it works. If I mute it, do you miss it?
Yep.
And so if the answer is yes, I'm like, we'll put it back in. And the answer is like, I go either way. We don't need it then. Let's take it out.
Yeah.
It's just one more thing to have to figure out where it goes in the mix.
Right. And less is more. Not only does it make the process go by quicker, but believe it or not, our ears enjoy simple. The more simple stuff, especially right now in music, the simpler it is, the better. I think anything that's come out by Lord in the last, few years, very, very simple stuff.
They're using blank space as, not the Taylor Swift song, blank space as an instrument in the song.
Yeah.
So you might hear a kick, snap, snap, kick. There's like nothing going on in between that. It's space, but they're playing that as an instrument, saying this will create a vibe.
And it does. It sounds good. So that's what we wanted to create. That's what we wanted to capture. We wanted the song to be rock, but we definitely wanted it to sound modern, and we wanted it to sound unique. And so those were the elements we were hunting for. We tried not to throw anything in the song that didn't need to be there. No kind of, but at the same time, we said, we're going to do whatever we want with this stuff.
We have no rules. If we want to put something in, let's put it in. If we don't like it, we'll take it out. So at this point, we have a track with my drums, Jake and Justin's guitars that are layered a little bit. We have some synth stuff, the synth bass, and we have the work tape we've been working to, but we need some vocals of some sort, at least to kind of finish out this track.
Right. And originally when Josiah recorded that clip that we played earlier, he's just got a guitar in his hands. We're just kind of working through it. So we kind of think we know what it's going to sound like. But at this point, now we know literally the layout of the song. Maybe we changed a chord or two here and there, and the song's really starting to shape up. So it's time to maybe make a couple of slight melody adjustments, some changes to the cadence. And that's what we did. And as we did with all of these demos, just 4:00 in the morning.
Right. We were tired.
We've got the track, pretty close to done, at least for now.
We're at that point of where we're just laughing at nothing. And we start hugging and then laughing again. And then one of us is crying at all times.
Thanks to Molly Hansen, we had those jelly beans. What's the bean boozled?
Bean boozled. If you don't know what that is, if you've ever had jelly beans, some of them are bad flavored and some are good. And you spin a little wheel and it says white jelly bean. Pick up a white jelly bean. It could be coconut. It could be spoiled milk. And you have to eat it.
So that kept us busy at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when it's like, I need a break.
Somewhere on the interwebs, I'm sure there's a video of us doing that.
There is. There is.
Goodness.
So it's time to record vocals. This very microphone that I'm speaking into right now was laying on the desk at all times. And Justin and or I would just pick it up and sing a part. And in this song in particular.
You say and or I.
That's right.
So something that we did a little differently than a lot of other bands did, we had 2 singers singing the lead part, not one singing the main part and one singing the background part. But both of them sang the lead part. On the verses, Jake, you did it because you have this grovelly part of your voice that you can get and that you can summon and lay down that rhythmic vocal line in the verses. And then in the chorus, where it just opens up, Justin's got that higher range where he can hit those notes and it just sounds smoother up there. Than when you would attempt it. So we just used both singers on the same song.
And side note, I think that gives us a really cool advantage. Our vocal range is, I won't say doubled, but our vocal range now as a band for melodies is much more drastic. I can hit the much lower stuff. He can hit the much higher stuff. And that was something that we knew we had a tool, an ace up our sleeve to be able to do. In this particular instance, we wanted the verses to sound more ominous. And we wanted the chorus to sound big and soaring. And with Justin's voice being able to hit those higher notes a lot better than me, I think he just slayed it. And so that's what we did. We recorded scratch vocals, and now we had what's called a demo.
Yeah, and we put that up online in a Dropbox folder that we shared with some of our closest friends who became our label executives. Another concept that we tried that was outside of the norm, where if you help support our Pledge Music campaign to put this album together, then you became, if you pledged a certain amount or more, you became a label executive and had access to all these work tapes and demos, and you can help make decisions on like which song should be our next single, which actually is how Tell Me became a single due to their votes. And that's we put it up there, and instantly everybody just fell in love with the song. And we were like, yeah, it's a good song, but I mean, we have better songs in our opinion as musicians. Not that we didn't like this one, but we didn't see it coming.
Right. And it's hard. We're married to all these songs. We wrote them. We came up with them. They're connected not just to our brains, but our hearts as well. They mean something to us. They have a story behind them that is very close to us. And so sometimes it's really hard to separate yourself from that. And that's why it's important to have people around you that can make that separation for you. They've never heard the song before. They may or may not even know what it's about. And they can just listen to it and say, oh, yes, that's a good song. Or no, I don't think that's a good song. And that's why, I mean, that's something that a record label really does for you. You have people at your label that will listen and say, this is a good song. 'Cause sometimes a band is like, no, this is good. And the label's like, nope. And sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong.
And sometimes producers are the people who have to wear that hat and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And this is not what we're going to do. We're going to take this out. We're going to do this. But we didn't have a producer. All 3 of us are producers and produced ourselves.
Right. We produced ourselves. We wrote it. And that can be it worked out really well for us, but it can be dangerous.
It could have been a train wreck.
That's why we were so grateful to have the label executives that we did. Because who were we putting the music out to listen to?
Listeners, the average Joe.
Exactly. And so we had an amazing group of people who were just fans of music and could listen and say, yeah, I like this, or it's not very good. So when they said, this is a good song, we knew we had something. Could we put it out right now? We probably could put it out right now.
People would see through it.
This is what it sounded like.
Was it worth it in the end? Risked it all to lose a friend. Tell me. Did you find the love you need and all the secrets that you keep? Tell me.
It's a little rough around the edges. It's missing some of the nice smooth polish. If you've heard the song before, you'll notice the drums are really loud, the vocals are really loud, the guitars are really quiet. There's some parts not there at all.
It's just not mixed and it's not fully produced yet, not to where we want it.
It's got my 4 a.m. vocal.
Into a mic that I like doing rock vocals on these mics. We're speaking right now into Shure SM7Bs. If you're interested in what mic we're talking about, it's a good staple to have. Every recording studio you ever go to will have one. A lot of podcasters use them. A lot of radio DJs use them. They're very good. I mean, you could hammer a nail in with it. It's good.
Right. So we've got our demo, but we knew that we weren't done. So what literally happened in the process at that point is we then stuck it in a folder and didn't think about it for a little while.
So we had 10 more songs to write.
On to the next song. So we wrote this entire album and recorded it all in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Like we said earlier, we didn't have these songs to choose from. So 3 or 4 weeks to record would be normal, but 3 or 4 weeks to start the writing process and then picking the songs and then producing them out and demoing them, all this stuff. That's a little bit of a rush.
Right. So knowing that we were going to be rushed, as we recorded things, we wanted to be able to use as much of those original recordings as we possibly could. We didn't want to have to go back and re-record all the guitars. If there was a really good vocal on the demo, we just used it.
Yeah, and sometimes that was accidental, but we did it. Like it sounded so good, or we recorded it so well, or we liked where we were in that vocal process. Like, hey, 4 a.m. might be a really good time to do those low parts. Or maybe your voice was warmed up after singing for the last 8 hours that you can hit those high notes and you couldn't do it later when we were actually there to track the real vocals, which is what we're getting to.
Well, and on the emotional side of singing as well.
Ooh, yeah, there's that.
There is a truthfulness that comes through your voice as you sing the first time those words ever come out, especially when you're tired. And in the circumstances we were in, we were exhausted. It was very emotional because we were talking about all of these different things, aspects of our lives.
And we had just written these lyrics. So we had just put these pieces together and made this puzzle, and we're able to stand back and look at the full picture for the first time, seeing the whole puzzle put together.
Exactly. And there's actually some really cool examples of huge songs that they used the demo. They used the whole demo on.
I know Adele, for instance, her piano/vocal demo was used on a lot of her songs.
Yeah. Well, and even Shinedown, the song 45, they took that song, went in and re-recorded the whole song. And it's this big, beautiful production with strings and electric guitars, really big. And at the end of the day, they said, no, the demo hits your heart a lot harder than this fully produced, beautiful version of the song. They released the demo to the radio, and one station, I believe in Orlando, got their hands on the actual studio recording that nobody else had. And they said, no, this one's way better. And so while the rest of the country put out this very stripped down version that that you've heard on the radio or the record, this one radio station put out the big one. And the song did amazing. It shot up the charts in every market except for the market that had
the studio recording. Side story to your side story. Speaking of Shinedown, the guitarist for the band Shinedown, Zach Myers, actually makes a guest appearance and plays a guitar solo in another one of the songs on our record that we're talking about. The song's called End of Me. So look it up in your free time after the podcast is over.
Absolutely. Shameless plug.
Zach, what's up, man?
So we finished recording all the demos. We had all the songs done that we knew that we were going to put on the record. And it was time to go in and polish them up. Anything that we needed to re-record, we would re-record. And I definitely know that we wanted to re-record a lot of the vocals because, we didn't know for sure what we wanted them to sound like maybe in the moment. And we had a little bit better of an idea now. And also, when 2/3 of the production team are the singers, singing is such a vulnerable thing. And it can be very difficult, A, just to do it, but B, to then tell your bandmate and best friend that, hey, something you're singing, I think it could sound better. And so I put Robert on the spot and made him be the bad guy.
That was tough. That was tough to accept that position, to be able to produce the vocals for 2 of my closest friends. Because there's that part of you that wants something particular as a producer in your brain, like, I think it needs to sound this way. And there's that same opposite part of your brain that goes, you don't want to hurt your friend's feeling by telling them no. You know,
right.
You know what I mean?
That doesn't sound good, Jake.
But I know that you guys were strong enough to take that criticism, but also we were on a time crunch. Justin had to fly out of town. Like, we had to get this thing turned in to have it released in time to make deadlines. And we're like, okay, if I hurt their feelings too much, I don't want to have like a breakdown, which has happened in bands before. I didn't think you guys were going to do that, but I didn't want to risk it. I didn't want to make you sing the same part over and over and over again and kill your voice, because we had other songs we had to
10
record.
songs to do. And
I'm like, all these things flood your brain. In the meantime, on the outside, I'm going, yeah, sure, I'll produce vocals. And the inside, I'm crying.
so we went to Robert's studio, an amazing studio. I love Off the Wall.
Thanks, man. I co-own it with my business partner, Lester, who's in our episode number 1. Lester Estelle, drummer for Kelly Clarkson.
And Jacob Whitesides and Neil McCoy. And
Pillar, Big and Rich.
Everybody else.
Eden's Edge. Oh my gosh.
So the vocals on any song, it's just the truth. They're the most important part. If the guitars aren't perfect, the drums aren't perfect, but the vocals are amazing, you can still put out a good song.
Sure. Everybody's focusing on that.
That's the message of the song. That's what the song is saying. And so that's why we wanted to go to this other studio. Robert has amazing microphones. He has amazing equipment. And we also just needed a change of scenery.
We were locked in your studio for weeks, and we were down to the wire, and we needed to get out of there and get these vocals. So anything, we even we were lusting over the idea of going to a bowling alley. Like, hey, should we spend 2 hours and just go bowling just to get out of here? And we're like, we felt guilty. Like, no, we need to write this record, but we need to get out of this. I don't even think we went bowling, but I remember just talking about it, and bowling alley sounded so good. So going to my studio was a change of scenery, breathing fresh air, different smells. You know what I mean? It didn't smell so much like Dude yet. It was just nice. So we broke that mold, got into my studio, and a way I like to approach recording vocals, if you didn't speak English, if it wasn't your native language and the song is in English, as a listener, I want you to be able to hear the words, not knowing what they mean because you don't speak that language, but know what he's saying or he or she is saying. So, Jake, while you're singing the verse, I remember telling you, like, I want you singing like your grit through your teeth, like you could see your breath at night, standing outside saying these words, na-na-na-na-na-na, not a boo-doo-doo-doo, boo-ba-doo, ba-ba-dee-dee-boo, which doesn't get the vibe of the song. That would sound happy. We're like, what do these words say if you don't speak that native language?
Absolutely.
And you did it well, like perfectly well.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, your words and advice as I was in the vocal booth, that's exactly what I pictured. Late at night, cold, dark. And that's the vibe that I tried to portray as I was singing it. I wanted people to not just hear what I was saying. I wanted them to feel it. And Justin did a phenomenal job as well of doing the exact same thing. It sounds, those questions when that chorus hits, was it worth it in the end? He sounds mad.
Yeah.
It's kind of an angry question.
And it's not, when we're doing these vocals, it's not just making sure you hit the right pitch or going to the right note or singing the right words. It's all of that plus the delivery. Are you selling it? Does it sound like, if you're singing a happy part of the song, does it sound like you're smiling? If you're supposed to be mad, does it sound like you're mad? Is it believable? So you're thinking about all of that. And then if you're rhythmically in time and where to put the breaths, because a little secret here, producing songs, a lot of times it's the breath between the words or sentences that are over-exaggerated, which give that sense of energy. Listen to Maroon 5, Adam Levine, he'll go like that, breathe in intentionally louder, and it might be automated up in the mix a little louder, to create a sense of energy or upbeatness or anger if it needs that or whatever. So singing Tell Me, some of the breaths are chopped out, but some of them are left in, some of them are pushed up in the mix. It just creates a new instrument.
Right. Well, and we've got this song. We've already let a core chunk of our fans hear it. And so we already know that this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
And so we're doing the vocals, no pressure, don't screw it up. Because if the vocals don't sound just right and sound great.
Yep, song's done.
Song's done. So that's what we did. We recorded them. Robert, you did such a good job of producing them.
Thank you.
The song's done now, right? We're done. It's ready to go.
Yeah, push it to radio. Nope. We still have a few more steps. So before it goes to the mix step, we still have a little bit more ear candy we want to put in there. So it went back to Jake's studio, and you added a little bit more bells and whistles.
I would get little things in my inbox sometimes from either of the guys that would say, hey, I have this idea for this song, throw it in there. And
In 3 different cities in the United States.
Right.
We are all putting together the same song from our own rigs and our own sound libraries and our own, 30 years of history of being alive and listening to music has shaped our personalities. So I'm taking mine and yours and Justin's, and we're all putting them together.
Yep. And sometimes I hear things, I was like, I would never do that. I would never put that in a song. And you put it in there and it's exactly what the song needs.
So we added that little bit of ear candy, if it be tambourines or extra synths or a little chimey sound or whatever it may be, to kind of put the finishing touches on the production of this track.
Yeah. And now it's time to mix the song. What is mixing, Robert?
Mixing is, I'm sure most of you would know this, but if you don't, it's the part where we take all these different, if you want to call them microphones or tracks. So the drums have anywhere from 10 to 20 microphones on them to record them. 1 for each drum, sometimes 2 for each drum, the cymbals, the room sounds, all that kind of stuff, just for the drum tracks. And then we have all the different layers of vocals, all the different guitar tracks we let you hear earlier, all those synth sounds, the synth bass, all of that stuff. So it could be 40 to 100, 140 even, tracks that all have to be summed together and put together and mashed the right way, whether it be EQing things like, hey, this bass is cool, but we don't need that much low end in it, so let's EQ that out. Oh, we got to make room for the vocals. Let's carve some of this frequency range out of the guitars. Then there's automation of things, meaning at points where the vocals get too loud, you have to automate it so it goes volume-wise down a little bit. You can automate EQ curves, so all of a sudden you have swells and stuff that are like whoosh, which is an EQ automation or whatever. Actually, one of my favorite risers is in this song. Play that riser real quick, that swell. Not only are you doing volume automations and EQ automations, you're also moving things, you're panning them. You're putting, this instrument needs to sound over in the left ear, this one's more in the right ear. So when you play them together, it sounds kind of cool, like you're in between them. You're putting some things depth-wise deeper into the mix. They sound further away from you by adding reverb, which is, if you're singing in the shower, you hear that cool sound, and that's why you sound so good when you're in the shower, but not while you're in the car. I don't know. It's because of that reverb, which is kind of blending. It's blurring some lines of your mistakes or inconsistencies in the sound, and putting it in a different space. And that's what you can do in the mix. You're putting things left and right. You're putting things forward and backward. You're putting things louder and quieter. You're just creating a space for the song. You're putting the listener inside the song the way that you perceive it.
And there's all different approaches to mixing. Something that I've heard you say before is you can give the song to 10 different mix engineers and get 10 different mixes that all sound completely different, but are all really good.
And the band could say, hey, every one of those mixes is perfect. Just pick one. Or they could say, I like this mix better because the way you EQ'd something. It's just a matter of opinion. And you can mix a song literally forever. It'll never be done. It might be done to your specifications, but someone else will go, oh, no, it needs to keep mixing it. And so when someone say, how long does it take to mix a song? I always answer, how long is a rope? It depends on where you cut it. It's like I can mix it for a day. I can mix it for a few hours. I can mix it and be happy with it in a few hours. But I can continue mixing it. I can keep hearing little things I want to change. And then maybe sleep and the next day go undo that because I don't like it the next day. You can mix forever.
Yeah.
And that's one of those challenges you have to have, especially when we're self-producing and mixing this whole thing ourselves. We have to put ourselves in the listener's shoes and like, is this where we want it to end? Is this how we want the finished project to sound?
So perfectly said.
Thank you.
So we're going to get 10 songs now for the As We Ascend record.
Because one of them we already had done pushed to radio, actually our first radio single called Wash Away, before we even started writing the whole record.
We had a song out on the other, yeah.
Which charted, it hit number 5, but it never hit number 1 like this one.
And a little thing about the mix of a song. And when I was younger, I used to get producers and mix engineers mixed up because I always loved a good mix.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I cared how good the song was. If it sounded good, I liked it.
Yeah. And for me, I would email recording studios. I wasn't sure exactly how it worked. I'm like, how did you get those drum sounds on that Incubus record or whatever? Like, what mic did you use on the kick drum? And right. Like, we don't know. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, misconception of who's doing what.
Right. The kick drum that you're hearing may not even be the kick drum that the drummer played. It could have been replaced, with a sample.
Exactly.
So I'm looking at these songs. I'm looking at Tell Me, knowing that we've got a good song here. And I'm thinking, don't screw this up. Because an amazing song that sounds like a dumpster fire
Ooh, I like that way that sounds.
is not going to do anything. You
Right.
just, as a mix engineer, you've just ruined the song for the band. Adversely, a mediocre song that sounds amazing could go twice as far as it would have gone, just sounding as mediocre as the song.
You know you've heard that song. You could probably name a song right now.
Turn on the radio.
Yeah, that you're like, how did this song ever make it on the radio? I mean, it sounds right, but really? Have you listened to the words, or have you listened? This song's just stupid.
But it sounds really good.
And you're going to hear it 10 more times on the same radio station.
So that is mixing. That's what you have to do. And the pressure, knowing that if I don't nail these mixes, I've just taken all of our work that we've, all of our blood, sweat, and tears, all these song ideas and emotions and thoughts and questions and feelings that we've put into this entire record, as well as our skills, our skill set. And I've completely misrepresented all of them. And this album's never going to go anywhere. And it's going to be all my fault. And I'm going to crawl in a hole and never speak to anybody ever again.
So many what ifs going through your head. Like, what if they don't like it? What if the fans don't like it? What if I mess this up? And then you add the pressure and the stress of we're under a time constraint. We have a
huge time constraint.
We have a date and a time given to us by Chad Green, which we referenced earlier, who was helping us get this to radio. And we'll talk about that in a minute. His exact role as a publisher and like taking these songs and finding them and making them become a gift to the masses. He was going to help facilitate that, and we'll get to that. But you have the pressure of meeting that deadline, and we were pushing it to the wire, literally designing artwork and mixing stuff. We were all doing it ourselves the night before we're turning it in.
I remember at 11 o'clock at night, all three of us on a phone call together talking about little mix tweaks and little things to change. So the songs, since we're talking about this song in particular, I finally get it where I like it, where I think it sounds good. We're all good with it. It's done. I get the rest of the songs mixed. Everything's done. And sometimes in the mix process, I'll go in and add even more little things, or I'll take stuff out. So we get everything sounding like they need to, get the vocals sitting where they need to be.
Right.
In fact, we didn't actually layer too much in way of vocals. So it wasn't terribly difficult. The biggest challenge was Justin and I have two different voices, and we're both singing lead. I can't just put the same settings on my voice on his.
Totally different people.
And then also, we both sang harmonies and background vocals for different things at different times. So I had my set of vocals was ridiculous. So there's just there's way more layers of vocals than there might even be on a normal song. That being said, we still kept it pretty simple.
One of my favorite things to do is solo up the vocals and just listen to it a cappella, because you can hear all the harmonies interacting, the doubles. Let's just do it. Let's do it for this one.
Yeah, check this out.
I'm on to you. I'm on to you. Was it worth it in the end? Risked it all to lose a friend. So tell me. So tell me.
So there it is. You can hear the lead vocal, the harmony, the doubles, the things to kind of help thicken it up a little bit.
Even some little fake vocal trick thing we did with a vocoder thing, just to add a layer. It was in there as well.
Kind of robot-y, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a
chimey
synth
thing.
Yeah, like a synth manufactured vocal sound. I mean, we really sang it, but I say I didn't. But we kind of just vocoded it.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the song mixed. Everything is fitting, sitting just where it needs to. Now it's ready to go to radio.
Well, we put it on a CD, put it in our car, and all of a sudden it's really quiet.
Right.
Like we were listening to the radio, we had to turn it way up to listen to this song. And that's normal for mixed songs that haven't been mastered yet, which is the next step.
That is the final step in this
Production part of it. Anyway.
Right. So you write the song, you record you get a rough recording of it,
Work tape demo stuff.
go in, get all the final everything recorded, you mix it or send it off to a mix engineer. Now it sounds great. Everything sounds almost like it's done.
Pretty polished.
And there's just that last clear coat that you need to put on the song to get it right where it can compete with everything else.
So the mix is now just a 2-track, a left and a right track, a wave file that pretty much like an MP3 or wave that you download from iTunes or whatever. It's not 50 different tracks. It's not like you have 20 drums anymore. It's all just a left and a right. And so the mastering engineer gets it and can't really control the levels of the vocals or make the drums louder. He can't control the mix like a mix engineer can. what he does is he puts a sheen on it. If it's not bright enough, or it's too bass heavy, or not bass heavy enough, or the song needs to sound wider, it needs to be louder. This is where the mastering engineer takes it and just takes that one mix and just shines it until it fits in with how they want it to fit. If they want it to sound like a Metallica song, he might add a punchier low end to it, like bring in that low end. If he wants it to sound like a Chainsmokers song, there might be a whole bunch of low end in it. You never really know until the producer says, hey, make it sound like this, or hey, you do your thing as a mastering engineer. So that was my job on this mix.
You stole my line. I was about to say, Robert, you mastered this record and you did such a good job. And a mastering engineer, you're the final line of defense to make sure that anything that I screwed up in the mix that you can fix. You know, if I had the bass up too loud, or this is, that it's too chimey or whatever. That's
right. And that was my job. And it's tough because the mixes were good. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I need to do to them other than make it louder, but you reference other songs, and that's a huge part of mixing and mastering, or even writing. You listen to other songs, see what they're doing, see what's hitting, and see what it needs to compete with. So, it might be a Nickelback song that you want to compete with. It might be the Shinedown stuff. Whatever you want your song to compete with, you've got to listen to it and like, hey, why does my song sound so thin? Or why does their song sound so heavy and beefy? What do I need to change to my mix to make it sound like that?
Keep your friends close. Keep your Nickelback references closer.
It's a t-shirt. I should probably make that. So I had to take your mix and make it, compete with, I think I was listening to Bring Me the Horizon's new record at the time. And like, I love the way this sounds. It sounds right. So let's listen to their low end, their bass. Let's listen to how crispy the top end is, or if it's warm up there. Let's see how wide it is in my speakers. If I put headphones in, do I still hear the vocals clean? So I'm taking your mix and I made it as loud as their record. I put it as wide as their record. And, I tried to make the bass sound right for what we're doing. And like, the thing was, mastering is also the final step for the whole album. So even though this was a radio single, or we didn't even know if it was going to be at this point, but even though it was going to be a single, I had to make it fit in with the other songs, which on this record, if you go listen on iTunes, the band As We Ascend, and the album's called Farewell to Midnight. The songs aren't exactly the same. It doesn't sound like everyone's a hard rock song, or everyone's a ballad, or everyone's
around all over.
So we have a song that Brad Arnold from Three Doors Down sang on, and it's a ballad. And we had the song, like I told you earlier, that Zach Myers from Shinedown played guitar on. And then we have, pedal to the metal, sounds like it should be like an NFL theme song or something. Get your grind on type song. And then we've got like this one that has a lot of electronic elements in it, which is just, every song's different.
All over the place, which just makes your job as a mastering engineer super fun.
I had to make it sound cohesive and make it sound like it's all from the same band at least. So like when it went from one song to the next song, it didn't all of a sudden have to be turned way down or way up on your car, or volume, or your iPod or whatever. It all sounded pretty much the same. So you could skip from song to song and, oh wow, the bass sounds about the same on this, and wow, this one's not blowing my ears out, that kind of thing. So as a mastering engineer, we had to bring it up to a level that was loud enough to compete.
So real quick, Robert, I want to pull this up. This is the mixed version before it was mastered. And then I'm going to play the mastered version right after, so you can actually hear the difference. Because a good mix should sound like it doesn't necessarily need to be mastered, but then once it's mastered, you hear that difference. You hear that polish. Obviously, it's going to be louder, but just check this out.
Was it worth it in the end? Risk it all to lose a friend? So tell me.
And here is what it sounds like mastered now.
Was it worth it in the end? Risk it all to lose a friend? So tell me. Did you?
Big difference, right?
So that's what we did. We made it compete. And then from this point, we have the final audio project.
We're done.
The song itself, the album itself is finished. But that was
a good feeling.
It was scary. I remember when we hit submit to put it, so we had to get it replicated by the company who's making the actual physical CDs. If you don't know what that is, Google it. And we had to hit the submit button. Like, we're sending all these files. Is everybody ready? Let's cross our fingers. I'm sweating. Let's hit send. We did it. But that doesn't make a #1 Billboard song because no one's going to hear it yet.
And I get this question all the time, and I'm sure you do too as well, Robert, from younger bands. How do I get my song on the radio?
Well, full disclosure, it does take a little bit of money to do this.
It does, and not a lot. I mean, it's especially in the market that we're in. Save up, sell your Pokemon card collection, and you can have a number one song.
Well, that's the first step, though. And once you have the final project, there's a whole career path out there called radio promotion. And you have to find a radio promoter in the genre with a track history that proves itself, that will take your song if they have faith in it. If he or she has faith in your song, say, hey, I will use my pool with these program directors at all these radio stations, my personal relationship with all of these people, put my name on the line behind your song and say, hey, you guys need to hear this song.
Absolutely. And this is where our friend Chad Green, again, shout out to Chad, helped us tremendously. So we didn't have a traditional record deal. We were with the label is called Vital Records, and then Daywind Publishing, and we were working with our friend Chad through all of that. And those are the guys that went in and signed off to make sure we could have the money to do the radio promotion and also duplicate the discs and send it out to the stores and do all of those things once the album was done. And Chad, again, such a hard worker. He asked around, he made as many phone calls as he could to find who is going to be the best person to promote these songs to radio. And he found a woman by the name of Donna Del Sesto.
And that wasn't the final decision. Chad doesn't just go, here's what we're going to use. Chad says, here's who we should use. Do you guys like her? Let's talk. Let's have a meeting. So we had a phone call and we kind of screened her. She screened us. She's like, does she want to work with us? Like, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know Robert Venable and know As We Ascend stuff. So why does she want to push our songs to radio?
Right. And it's up to her. You don't want somebody promoting your band or your artwork who doesn't believe in what you're doing.
Right. It's the same with any project or any product out there. A vacuum cleaner doesn't really work. You're going to hire a salesperson who knows it doesn't work. No, you're going to hire one who thinks it's the best thing ever. It's the best vacuum in the world. I want to tell everybody about it. Because if they see that on that salesman's face and say, this guy really believes in this product, I'll give it a shot. Or like, yeah, you really need to try this vacuum. You really need to hear this song. This song is so good. OMG.
So Donna, one thing that we loved about Donna was she heard the songs, she heard our story, she liked it. She liked the album and she liked us a lot. And believed in the vision that we had. And that made it a pretty easy decision to hire her to come in and promote these. So her job as a radio promoter is she calls program directors. Those are the people at all the different radio stations that decide what's going to get played on their radio station.
And we did a podcast previously. Go back and if you haven't already heard this one.
Episode number 3, Who is Caller Number 7? Yeah.
And where we kind of dive behind the scenes of what's going on at a radio station, how songs are chosen. And this is from the other side of that, how we get the songs to that person.
Exactly.
And so Donna's job was to call these people, take them to dinner if she needed to. Or like, hey, while we're sitting here, have you heard As We Ascend's new song, Tell Me? You haven't? I think you should play this. Take a listen to this.
Absolutely. And so that happened. So now the songs, she does all of this and the songs are on the radio. Songs don't just go number one.
Nope.
It takes some more work.
Okay. So every time they play that is a spin. Every time they play that song counts as a spin. And it's reported, if they're reporting radio station, to Nielsen SoundScan. Now, Billboard and some other charts will look at those numbers from Nielsen SoundScan and say, what are the number one songs being played in all these different platforms? Oh, in hip hop, it's blah, blah, blah. In country music is this one. In rock music is this one. And they sort them. And the number one is the number one most played song in that network, in that genre. So the more the programming director likes your song or is seeing feedback from their demographic, target demographic, of like, hey, 16 to 24-year-old dudes are really loving this song. Let's keep playing it because they're the ones listening to our station. They'll play it more to keep you listening. And that's why Taylor Swift's always number one. That's why...
Because of the 16 to 24-year-old dudes?
Probably. Or whatever their demographic is, which is not 16 to 24-year-old dudes for top 40 music. Anyway, so the markets that were playing Tell Me, the program directors were seeing good feedback. There was testing well in their market, and so they played it. So it just happened to be the one that they played the most repeatedly. So we just shot up the charts.
Well, and obviously, if you turn on the radio to any station, there's songs on there, sometimes number one songs that are just not that good. Any genre of music has songs that are just not great.
And there are secrets on that we talked about in episode 3 on why some songs might be played more than others that might not be fair. We did not do that. We did not use payola to pay radio stations to play our music.
Well, the truth is the best way to get anywhere, no matter what your industry is, no matter what you do, is building good relationships. And that was something that we wanted to focus on with our band, with our album, and with our music. Not only have we tried to build a good relationship with Donna, and Donna has great relationships, our radio promoter, who has great relationships with all these program directors, but we were also calling radio stations and setting up interviews and all kinds of things to let them know, hey, we're not just some group of guys who just hired someone to do something for us because we don't, it's below us to try to talk to these people. We genuinely care and are very appreciative that you've been playing our music, and we want to show that by giving back to you in any way that we can.
So we sent them a copy of our album. We sent them personalized videos from us, of us sitting in the studio, just honestly thinking, because we made a project, we made a CD, an album, whatever you want to call this, a group of songs that spoke from our heart. It was an expression of what we were feeling. This wasn't like, hey, let's write a song for radio, which a lot of bands are doing nowadays. And we didn't pick from a library of songs written by somebody else. We sat here and we made these songs what we wanted to make them. And we were honored that they consider playing it on the radio. So we sent them honest thank you emails to these program directors and radio stations for even listening to our music.
And again, and having such a phenomenal team, we had our label executives who were calling their local markets anytime that they could and saying, hey, will you play As We Ascend? And we also had Chad, who was working twice as hard as us, also sending out those emails and phone calls and saying, hey, my name's Chad, I work with this band, and I just want to say thank you so much for and a little courtesy can go such a long way. And so then when it's time to build a new playlist for the next week, they might think, you know what? I like those guys. I'm going to throw this song in there a couple extra times.
Yeah.
You see that times however many markets there are that are reporting, all of a sudden your numbers start to go up.
So if you do all of these things, you're going to get a number one song, right?
Not necessarily.
But those are great steps to take. And a lot of those are necessary. Not all of them are, but that's pretty much the way you need to go to at least have a shot at being considered for radio play and getting your song on number one. If the song's not good, the rest of the steps don't even matter. If you don't start off with a good song that you have pride in and that you have faith in, why even waste time and effort on the rest of it?
Absolutely. And so we're incredibly grateful as a band, as men, to have a wonderful team of professionals around us, as well as such an incredible fan base. That is the story of how As We Ascend's song, Tell Me, was able to climb up to number one. And we were blown away. We didn't know when we were working on the project back November of last year if any of our songs would ever even be on the radio, and we didn't care. We wrote music, recorded it, and released it with the intention of just being honest about who we are and what we want to say. And I think that is the most important ingredient of all of it in saying, this is just real.
Yeah, it's the honest way to do it. Right now, your dog's probably done doing his business. You're probably arrived at work or home or wherever you're going, the grocery store. All your shopping's done, your workday's about to start, your workday just ended, you're ready to relax, whatever. If you want to hear this song in its entirety, we're about to play it in just a minute, so keep listening. I know you just sit in your car 5 extra minutes.
Stick around after we're done saying goodbye, and you can hear Tell Me again. It's in its entirety, and you'll recognize this intro loop from the song, because that's exactly where we stole it from.
And if you like the song, please, we'd love for you to check it out on iTunes. Again, As We Ascend, Farewell to Midnight. The song's called Tell Me. And you can check out the other music that we've done as well. We're not telling you to go buy our music, but if you like it, we'd love for you to.
Also, if you want to hear any of these voice memos that we played in their entirety, they're going to be up on SoundCloud. Look at the description of this podcast, and you'll see a link to that where you can make fun of my shower voice.
While you're there, go ahead and smash that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'd love for you to rate and review what we're doing.
Please.
That helps us a lot.
5 stars if you think it's 5 stars.
4 stars if you think it's 4 stars.
And the list goes on. If you and then really leave us a rating. Let us know. Is this interesting? Is this boring? Is our intro too long?
We've heard that one before. And yes, we do take them seriously. I know our intros are kind of long, but what if this is the first time you've ever heard our podcast and you don't know who we are and why should we even listen to these two nutheads?
Goobers.
These weirdos. And is Robert really 5,000 years old?
No, he's not. He's way older than that.
Yeah, I've had several birthdays since that one. So hit that. Make sure you're checking us out on social media too. If you have any questions or any comments to what we're talking about, we are on Twitter and Instagram at Turned Up Podcast.
And of course, Facebook.com/turneduppodcast. You can see photographs, see little video clips, all kinds of things that relate to the stuff that we're talking about.
Photos of the people who we just talked about. Like in some of our episodes, we've interviewed people, and if you want to see what they look like or see their work, we post videos and pictures of them as well.
Again, thank you so much. Without somebody to listen to this podcast, it's not a podcast.
We would just be sitting here recording ourselves talking to each other, which is weird.
I don't know. I don't mind talking to you.
Not like all the other ones we've recorded of our own conversations. Oh, we're weird people. However, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to listen to this. It wouldn't be possible without Real Sound, so thank you to those guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Real Sound, for this platform. Thank you so much, Robert, for your contribution to this band and to this song and to this podcast.
Likewise to you, Jake. Hard work recording, mixing, and engineering all this stuff. I know because I do some of them myself, and this one's yours. So have fun with that. And thank you for listening. We hope that you tune into the next episode. We've got some cool ideas coming up, even throughout the holidays. This is Turned Up Podcast Nashville, signing out.
Peace.
Hey, if you're still listening, here comes the song.
Was it the late nights, all night out on the road? Was it the taste of the thrill rising up in your throat? I'm on to you. I'm on to you. Was it the rush or the hush hush keeping it low? Was it the games to chase when you were out on your own? I'm on to you. I'm on to you. Was it worth it in the end? Risk it all to lose a friend? So tell me. Did you find the love you need and know the secrets that you keep? So tell me. It was the late night whispers over the phone. It was a secret meets where no one would know. I'm on to you. I'm on to you. Sleep with one eye open when all eyes were closed. You destroy your kingdom while you cling to your throne. But I'm on to you.